In this video, I'll explain exactly what is meant by foreclosure, and we're starting right now. If you own a home and you're making mortgage payments on it, then you almost certainly heard of the term foreclosure. It refers to a legal process where a lender, such as a bank, attempts to recover the remainder of the mortgage loan from a borrower who, for whatever reason, stopped making payments. Now, since the only way to get money from a real estate asset in default is to sell it, this essentially means the bank is looking to take possession of the property and force a sale. It will then use the proceeds to pay off the remainder of the owed mortgage. The homeowner will, of course, lose the home once it's sold, so foreclosure is a big deal and is typically a last resort after negotiating or modifying the mortgage fails. That's the basic overview of what a foreclosure is, but let's dive into some of the details because there is a certain amount of misinformation and confusion that surrounds this topic. The actual foreclosure process does vary from state to state, but there's also quite a bit in common between all of them. Perhaps the most important part, at least initially, is how long it takes for the mortgage to become delinquent and enter foreclosure. It's not right away, and the typical window in most states is 120 days or about 4 months from the date of missing a payment. Now, the assumption going in is that the homeowner doesn't want to lose their home in a foreclosure and is just going through an economic rough patch. Similarly, the lender typically isn't looking for foreclosure either. The process costs money and there's no guarantee they will make it all of it back if they foreclose. Also, the lender makes money off the interstate charge, and once a foreclosure happens, you pretty much lose that customer and the income the mortgage provides to the lender. So as you can see, both the homeowner and the lender have reasons and motivation to try to find a solution, and that can come in the form of a good faith effort to try to set things right. Examples of what can be done includes various types of loan modifications such as refinancing, forbearance, modified repayment plans, or asking for a mortgage reinstatement. Homeowners can also seek help from nonprofit organizations such as the Homeownership Preservation Foundation, the FHA Servicing Center, and others like them. The bottom line is that if something can be done, this is the time to do it. If nothing works out, however, and 4 missed payments come and go, the lender will move to foreclosure. The first legal action a homeowner will see is called a notice of mortgage default, which will be filed by the lender. The process then moves to the actual foreclosure, and depending on what state you live in, it can be a judicial or a non-judicial one. The judicial one is usually more time-consuming and is allowed in all 50 states, with some requiring it. It involves the lender filing a lawsuit in court against the homeowner, who has 30 days to respond. If they don't respond, the court may rule for the lender and the house could be foreclosed and sold. If they respond and go to court, the case will go before a judge to decide whether settlement can be reached. If no agreement is reached, the homeowner will then be forced to move out and the house will be offered up as a foreclosure sale. Non-judicial foreclosure does not involve the courts, at least not initially, and is a somewhat quicker process, but with just 32 states allowing it. This type of foreclosure typically occurs when a mortgage has a power of sale clause or the promissory note is tied to a deed of trust. If a borrower defaults on a mortgage with a power of sale clause, the lender doesn't need to go to court. They can just auction off the home after warning and waiting period outlined in the state's laws. In the case of a deed of trust, such as what we have here in California, the trustee, usually a title company, can seize a property and sell it without a court order. Neither type of foreclosure is inherently better or worse, as the outcome is essentially the same, but lenders do prefer the non-judicial one as it's cheaper and faster. Here in California, where non-judicial foreclosures are the norm, the deficiency judgment it prohibits does offer some protection to the homeowner, so it's the preferred approach for not just the lender, but the borrower as well. So what happens after the foreclosure process completes? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the homeowner will be forced to move out. They are given anywhere from 3 to 30 days, depending on state laws, and if they don't comply, they can be formally evicted, which can involve the local sheriff removing a home's occupants by force. Now, it's fairly clear at this point that a foreclosure is an adverse event. It does stay on your credit report 7 years from your first missed mortgage payment, and the hit your credit takes from foreclosure can hurt your ability to purchase a home later down the road. Many lenders won't consider an applicant with a foreclosure, though some may be more forgiving, especially if this happened several years ago. With that in mind, it's always worth trying to avoid the foreclosure in the first place, and I mentioned some of the approaches earlier in the video. If that's not possible, some of the other methods include a short sale or signing a deed in lieu of foreclosure. With these two approaches, you will still lose your home, but you won't have a foreclosure on your credit history and can apply for a mortgage again when your finances improve. The foreclosure timeline also shows why it's so important to have a rainy day savings, is equal to at least 6 months of living expenses. If you lose your job and have no savings, you won't be able to make your mortgage payments right away, and the clock will start in the foreclosure process after just 4 months, assuming you don't find a new job. With 6 months of savings, you've bought yourself far more time to land a new gig, and you may not even miss a payment at all. Finally, it's important to point out that if you have significant equity in your home and you go through with a foreclosure, you may walk away from it with significant cash. If the sale of the home yields profits, the lender is not entitled to all of them. They can only receive what they are legally owed plus any applicable fees. So clearly losing your home is a lot easier, at least financially, after you've had it for many years and have a fat cushion of equity. If, however, you just bought the house and foreclosed only 2 years later, you won't have a whole lot after the sale and may even owe money if the home price went down or stayed level after purchase. Now, what is that all about, you ask? Well, in the event that your home sells for less than the balance owed, the lender can file a deficiency judgment I mentioned earlier. This is a lawsuit that requests the borrower pay the remainder of the loan amount. For example, if you owe $300,000 on your mortgage, but the house only sells for $275,000, the deficiency is $25,000. A lender may try to collect the outstanding balance, but some states like California do have anti-deficiency laws or restrict deficiency judgments after foreclosure, so it's not a given and just depends on the state in your particular situation. Okay, that was a quick overview of a foreclosure so you can get familiar with some of the details of the process. It's not a pleasant topic, but if you're a homeowner, it's one you need to be aware of. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.